Hello students, welcome to the class. Children, today we will discuss the third chapter from Honeydew text. So what is the name of the chapter? I'm sure you are ready with the textbook as you listen to this. Glimpses of the past. In this lesson, we will find the pictorial glimpses of the history of our country from 1757 to 1857. These pictures and speech bubbles will help us clarify and understand the conditions that led to the event known as the First War of Independence. This Glimpses of the Past is an extract from a longer work by Savant. Here, it is in a comic or a graphic novel format. This was written by Shivaji Savant. So, let me introduce you and tell you a few things about Shivaji Savant. Shivaji Savant was an Indian novelist. He wrote in Marathi language. He is known as Mrityunjayakar, that is, the maker of Mrityunjay. He is famous for the Marathi novel Mrityunjay. He was the first Marathi writer to be awarded with Murti Devi Award in 1994. He wrote the book Mrityunjay. And this book was translated into Hindi, English, Kannada, Gujarati, Malayalam. And this book is about the famous character from Mahabharata, that is Karan. Shivaji Savant wrote a novel Chhawa which was published in 1980. It is based on the life of Sambhaji. Not only that, Shivaji Savant held the post of Vice President of Maharashtra Sahitya Parishad since 1995. He was a President of Baroda Sahitya Sammelan in 1983. He was born on 31st August 1940 in Kolhapur district, that is Maharashtra. He died on 18th September 2002 in Goa. This was about our writer. Now, as I told you initially that this chapter is a speech bubble. You know about these speech bubbles. When you read a comic, in the side you can see it is written and there are some bubbles. Speech balloons are graphic conventions used most commonly in comic books and cartoons. You have seen them, and they allow the words to be understood as representing the speech or thoughts of a given character in the comic. Now, let us check and understand what is this chapter. This chapter, Glimpses of the Past, is about the First War of Independence from 1857. Children, the Indian independence movement was a series of activities with the ultimate aim of ending the British rule. The movement spanned from 1612 to 1947. The first nationalistic revolutionary movement for Indian independence emerged from Bengal. This lesson gives us a short and precise description of events that took place in our country from 1757 to 1857. It enlists incidents that led to widespread revolts known as the First War of Independence. It provides a glimpse of how the British East India Company expanded its power in India and exploited Indians, how they robbed landlords and farmers of their land and created situations that led to famines and pushed patriots to launch widespread massacres. Children, look at this map of India. You can see different places here in this map. you can see the Marathas, Rajputanas, and here you can see Nizam's dominance. This is the map of India in 1757. Now, when you look at your textbook, here on page number 36, you can see in the first, it is written the martyrs. So, who are the martyrs, children? Martyrs are people who have sacrificed their lives for the country. So here in the first page you can see the scene represents a function that took place in Delhi, and the singer is Lata Mangeshkar, and she is also called as the Nightingale of India. Lata Mangeshkar can be seen singing the song "Ae Mere Watan Ke Logo." Along her, Indira Gandhi, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru and Lal Bahadur Shastri can also be seen here in the picture. This "Ae Mere Watan Ke Logo," this song, it tells us about the sacrifices of the soldiers, Indian soldiers. Now, if you see page number 34, you can see the map of India here, and you can see some soldiers fighting. You can see this picture of Tipu Sultan, and here the year 1757 bears the mark of being an important year in Indian history. The company's rule, also known as Company Raj, refers to the rule of the British East India Company. The East India Company was a private company owned by stockholders and reporting to the administration. The company came to India and set up a few factories at different places. However, the company's beginnings on coastal India offered no clues to what would become of a lengthy presence on the Indian subcontinent. Slowly and gradually, they began expanding and extending their dominance in India. One of the reasons they were able to do so is that they possessed superior weapons. Secondly, they took advantage of the prevailing disturbed circumstances among the Indian rulers. The Indian princes were not at peace among themselves. Indian princes, however, were short-sighted, which means they only considered immediate benefits but ignored the long-term consequences. So they took help from the English merchants to be able to defeat their rivals. This helped the British East India Company in taking over control. The British adopted the divide and rule policy. Among all the short-sighted Indian rulers, there was one ruler of Mysore, that is Tipu Sultan, who understood their policy and fought against them till his last moment. The Indians, however, had different opinions and reactions. The first set of people were very happy with the Britishers and also were grateful because they thought that peace could finally prevail. They thought that it brought an end to the war looting by thugs. On the other hand, they saw that what was happening, and they knew that even some of the princes were cruel. They were least bothered of their land. They had realized later that they were now slaves of Englishmen. So we will move on to the next page, that is page number 38. In this page number 38, you can see about the British rule. Here in the first line, you can see that religious leaders preached ideas like untouchability and child marriage. Here you can see one person there speaking that anyone who crosses the seas loses his religion. These years led to the rise of widespread myths and taboos like untouchability, child marriage, inferiority of women, etc. Our own religion leaders taught everyone the idea of untouchability. Now, what is untouchability? Untouchability refers to the practice of excluding a minority group by segregating them from the mainstream by social custom or legal mandate. They were not allowed to come near those who considered themselves superior, not allowed in temples, and they were discriminated against and deprived of basic rights. The religious leaders even preached that people who cross seas will no longer belong to their religion. Women were considered the root cause of lot of problems like poverty and other miseries. This is the reason why teenage girls were forced to marry, thereby leading to child marriage. These practices were not only being done but were also promoted. Because of this, the Britishers looked down upon Indians and initiated brainwashing the rulers against them. They realized that Indians were not worthy of trust and incapable of honesty. This was a way of making the native slaves and getting control over them. Not only this, the British merchants levied heavy taxes on the poor farmers in greed of immediate profits. As a result, the farmers had to give up their lands. If this was not enough, they threatened the farmers to imprison them. They continuously found ways to exploit the people and earn profits. Children, for example, the goods manufactured in England were being imported to India and no import duty was levied on them. The England produce was sold at high prices, whereas the Indian produce was taken away at much less prices, increasing poverty and misery of farmers. Such policies of the British East India Company destroyed the Indian industries, small businesses, and individual artisans were ruined. All this resulted in famines or extreme scarcity of food. Children, do you know that approximately 15 lakh Indians starved to death between 1822 to 1836? Children, I hope you all are listening to this. I told you initially that this class is about English, but we will understand more about history of India and it will look like as if you are in a history class. Let us move on and understand about Ram Mohan Roy. Who was Raja Ram Mohan Roy? He was a well-educated man from Bengal. He was one of the first to realize that there was something wrong with our country. He was of the belief that Indians must not consider themselves inferior or look down upon themselves. He believed that our ancient culture was great and the people were destined for greater achievements. According to him, the first step was to change the society by abandoning the prevailing superstitions. So, what were the superstitious beliefs? I just told you about some people preaching that some causes for poverty were women and this child marriage and all those things. And Ram Mohan Roy believed that it was the root cause of this problems, that is the superstitions. Once while having a conversation with his wife, Raja Ram Mohan Roy tells her that cows are of different colors but the color of their milk is same. This means that different teachers might have different opinions but the essence of each religion is the same. So Raja Ram Mohan Roy took a keen interest in science and modern knowledge. According to him, knowledge should be practical and scientific. He even published newspapers which Britishers stopped out of suspicion in 1823. He was inquisitive to know what made the Britishers so powerful. So he crossed the seas and traveled to England. There he is known to tell Britishers that we as a nation accept their rule. He added that they must accept Indians as subjects and not forget their responsibility and duty towards their subjects. Raja Ram Mohan Roy is known for his efforts to abolish the practice of sati and child marriage. Now let us understand the next page of this comic, that is page number 40, Oppression. That oppression means prolonged, cruel, or unjust treatment. The Britishers continued to find new ways to bring misery and sufferings to Indians. For instance, they passed the unfair regulations that kept them at an advantage, like the Regulation 3 in 1818, under which the Indian could be jailed without proper trial in the court. As they continued to suppress the Indians, they created all sorts of favorable circumstances to uplift their officers. The British officers drew huge amounts of salaries and could deepen their pockets by making a fortune out of their private businesses. The Britishers were exploiting goods in huge quantities. They were importing goods worth 7 crore rupees to India. As a result, the Britishers grew richer and richer, leaving the Indian industries high and dry. Governor General Bentinck had conveyed to Britain that the bones of the cotton weavers are bleaching the plains of India. To highlight the plights of the and misery of the traditional cotton weavers in India, this means that the cotton weavers were forced to starve because of the cotton mills set up by the Britishers. They produced much cheaper cloth with the help of machines that led the traditional Indian handicrafts to extinction. Back then, all the teachings were in the form of Persian and Sanskrit. So, in 1835, a British officer named Macaulay suggested that they must translate all of it in English so that the education is delivered in their language. They did so to produce clerks to get their unimportant clerical tasks and administrative duties like filing, um, typing documents. In the process of doing so, they manufactured a whole new generation of masterminds who wanted to uplift their brothers too by educating them. They wanted to strengthen their financial prospects that could lead to a promising future, but they needed to convey this to the British Parliament. Britishers, on the other hand, couldn't care less about the needs of the Indian people. By this time, Indian people had become more worried. Their kings were now being treated as puppets. Indians were tired of talking and wanted to do something. Many former rulers were bitter because of the Englishmen had taken control of their kingdoms. Leaders like Mauli Ahmadullah of Faridabad motivated people to free the country of all the Englishmen. People of Bareilly, Kanpur and Allahabad rose forward too. Former rulers like Begum Hazrat Mahal of Lucknow joined them because her kingdom had been taken by the British, thereby strengthening their power. Entire North India came together in large numbers to fight a pitched battle against the Britishers. In the light of this, Azimullah Khan expressed his thoughts to Tatya Tope that they should have Peshwa Nana Sahib as their leader in this war of independence against the English. In this revolt against the British, 8-year-old Kunwar Singh of Bihar was hit by a bullet in the wrist, which he dedicated to Mother Ganga as an offering. So, here, children, I conclude this chapter or glimpses of the past, that is talking about the history of our country, and it also talks about the sacrifices of the people who gave their lives for the country and for the independence of India. I'm sure you will have few doubts and questions to ask. After listening to this, you can ask your doubts. You can note down the questions which you need to ask. Thank you, children.